leadership.
Senator Cruz and Marshall, and just keep going.
The national security policy of Joe Biden and the Democrats is precisely backwards. For 3.5 years, Joe Biden and the Democrats have undermined and weakened our friends and allies, and they have sent billions of dollars to our enemies. It is exactly opposite what you would be doing if you were actually focused on U.S. national security interests. Let's look at our enemies. Tragically, Joe Biden has been the greatest friend the Ayatollah Khamenei has ever had on planet Earth. Tragically, Joe Biden has been the greatest friend to Hamas and Hezbollah that there is on planet Earth. Now, those sound like extraordinary statements. What are the facts? Under the Biden presidency, this administration has flowed more than $100 billion into Iran. $6 billion in ransom for 5 Americans, a policy which many of us said at the time would only lead to more Americans being taken hostage, and we saw tragically on October 7th that proved exactly right. $10 billion in funds in Iraq that the Biden administration wanted to flow to the Ayatollah, and then over $80 billion in oil. When Joe Biden came into office, the Trump administration, with the active support of all of us, had vigorously imposed oil sanctions and had cut Iran's oil exports from 1 million barrels a day down to about 300,000. The Iranian economy was in shambles. The Ayatollah was on his knees. Joe Biden came in like the cavalry coming to the rescue and immediately stopped enforcing oil sanctions. And what happened? Iran's oil sales went from 300,000 barrels a day to now more than 2 million barrels a day. Every one of those barrels is a gift from Joe Biden and the Democrats. That is over $80 billion. Mind you, this is from the same administration that does everything they can to kill oil and gas production in America while allowing a theocratic Ayatollah. Understand, the Ayatollah chants with mobs, chants death to America and death to Israel. And Joe Biden has said, here's $100 billion. This seems like a great idea. And what happened with that $100 billion? Well, 90% of Hamas's funding comes from Iran. 90% of Hezbollah's funding comes from Iran. October 7th was in a very real way funded by money given by Joe Biden and the Democrats to Iran and Hamas and Hezbollah. And by the way, Biden also sent hundreds of millions of dollars into Gaza, even though many of us said, if you send it to Gaza, it will go to Hamas and be used for terrorism. They knew that. They agreed with that. The Biden administration concluded it was, quote, highly likely the money would go to Hamas for terrorism. You know what they did? They waived the anti-terrorism laws and said, send it anyway. Where are we now? Where we are now is the Biden administration is sending money right now to Gaza. Many of us said if you send the money to Gaza, it will be seized by Hamas. What happened? The first shipment came in and boom, immediately seized by Hamas, exactly like we said. But they're combining it with blocking weapons to Israel. The Biden White House has been the most anti-Israel administration this nation has ever seen. Literally from day one, the Biden White House has been undermining Israel at every step of the way. When October 7th happened, when Hamas death squads were murdering 1,200 innocent civilians, were raping women and little girls, while the attacks were happening, the Biden State Department sent out a tweet at 3 in the morning saying Israel must not retaliate, there should be no military response. That tweet was disgraceful. I called it out at 3 in the morning, and they deleted the tweet within minutes. The next day, Tony Blinken, the Secretary of State, sent another tweet, said, I just talked with the Turkish foreign minister. We agreed Israel must not retaliate, must not strike back. I called that tweet out again. They deleted it again. Where are we today? Well, yesterday Joe Biden said, quote, "I made it clear if Israel goes into Rafah, I'm not supplying the weapons. We're not going to supply the weapons and the artillery shells." Now, I will point out Joe Biden and the Democrats lied to the American people on the supplemental funding bill that was just voted. They claimed it was to provide military funding to Israel. We now know they were lying. It was instead to give money to Gaza and Hamas and everywhere else except Israel. We should have sent this military aid 6 months ago. 6 months ago, many of us went to the Senate floor to force a vote on emergency military aid in November, right after October 7th. Every single Democrat voted no. It was a straight party line vote. A final observation. What Joe Biden is doing is not new. He has spent decades attacking and undermining Israel. Yes, it is true the radical left wing of the Democrat Party, the pro-Hamas wing of the Democrat Party is on the rise, is on campuses, and the Democrats are terrified of them. All of that is true. Yes, it is true they're terrified they're going to lose Michigan unless they give in to the pro-Hamas wing of the Democrat Party. But understand these sentiments are not new for Joe Biden. In 1982, when, by the way, I was 11 years old,
You're young. There you go, Ted.
in 1982, Joe Biden was a senator from Delaware, and he confronted Israel's Prime Minister Menachem Begin during his Senate Foreign Relations Committee testimony. And you know what Joe Biden was doing in 1982? Same damn thing he's doing in 2024. He threatened to cut off aid to Israel in 1982. And Prime Minister Begin responded as follows, quote, "Don't threaten us with cutting off your aid. It will not work. I am not a Jew with trembling knees. I am a proud Jew with 3,700 years of civilized history. Nobody came to our aid when we were dying in the gas chambers and ovens. Nobody came to our aid when we were striving to create our country. We paid for it. We fought for it. We died for it. We will stand by our principles. We will defend them. And when necessary, we will die for them again, with or without your aid." Even though Joe Biden wants to abandon Israel, and even though the Democrats in the Senate and House apparently support him in wanting to abandon Israel, America does not, and we should not let him. We should stand together and say, America stands united with Israel, and Hamas should be utterly destroyed.